One of the founders of the Territory's Stolen Generations movement is calling it a day. It's more than 60 years since Zita Wallace was taken from her Aboriginal family in Central Australia. She's dedicated much of her life to convincing governments they should recognise the pain of children who were removed. But after hearing the Prime Minister's apology earlier this year, Zita Wallace has decided to retire as chair of the Central Australian Stolen Generations and Families Aboriginal Corporation. Kirsty Nankaro reports Zita Wallace is now hoping others will pick up the cause.
I always tried to rationalise why the government took me away, but I couldn't find any. And said, well, the only thing that I knew that made sense was that they took me away because of the colour of my skin.
Zita Wallace is the daughter of an Aboriginal woman and a white miner. She was 8 years old when nuns took her from her desert home about 100 kilometres east of Alice Springs.
Our families weren't told that we were being taken. We were taken up and they bathed us and put clean clothes on us. And we were put in the back of a ute and driven into Alice Springs. That was it. We never ever went back home.
Zita Wallace was among hundreds of so-called half-caste children who were taken away to the bungalow at the old telegraph station in Alice Springs.
I remember the first night I was really distressed because my grandfather wasn't there. We're taken down and put on the Margaret Mary, which was the lugger that used to go between the islands with supplies. And when we got on, I'd never seen so much water in my life.
Zita Wallace has mixed memories of the 12 years she spent on Melville Island under the watchful eye of nuns at the mission.
The memories are happy memories with the children. Most of the missionaries were pretty good people. There were some that, overstepped their mark now that I know. There was a lot of punishment dished out to us that was totally unnecessary.
Zita Wallace later became a missionary herself, serving in Papua New Guinea.
It was my way out and I took it. I don't regret it.
Zita Wallace finished her missionary work and later went on to a 25-year career as a prison officer. But helped by her aunt Aggie Abbott, Zita Wallace eventually made the hard decision to return to Central Australia to find her mother.
My mother actually rejected me because in our culture, if a child passes away, that child is gone to the spirit world. And she said, no, my daughter died. It's dead, she died. So it took a lot of convincing with Mum Aggie and a lot of the other family members.
Her painful experience drove Zita Wallace to unite with other stolen children, and the Northern Territory Stolen Generations movement was born.
Zita has been instrumental in pushing for us to gain more positions and receive better recognition throughout society for stolen generations.
Their fledgling support group first met here at the telegraph station, the place they were all taken immediately after they were removed.
We used to just sit under the trees. They're very humble beginnings.
The Central Australian Stolen Generations and Families Aboriginal Corporation has worked tirelessly for almost a decade, reuniting parents with their stolen children and lobbying governments to acknowledge their suffering.
We run a link-up service which reunites stolen generation people with their families, and on occasions we take those people back to their communities. We now have counsellors on board and we are now discussing compensation and reparations.
For the pain, suffering and hurt of these stolen generations, we say sorry.
This year, their dream of an apology came true. Earlier this year, Zita Wallace was among those invited to Canberra to witness the Prime Minister say sorry to the stolen generations.
To the mothers and the fathers, the brothers and the sisters, for the breaking up of families and communities, we say sorry.
The apology. That's been the greatest achievement. It was great. The man was absolutely gracious and that was like the icing on the cake. Without the apology, I don't think we really could have moved on.
With the apology behind her, Zita Wallace is hanging up her hat as a Stolen Generations advocate and looking forward to a quieter life.
She's fought the good fight and I admire her stamina and I wish her well in her retirement because she's put in the hard yards.
7 years ago, Zita Wallace and her husband packed up their home in Alice Springs. They moved out here to her family's country at Salt Bore. Zita Wallace couldn't be happier to be living on the land of relatives she barely knew.
When I went to start tracing my family, I found my old uncle, and he brought me out here and he said, "This is your grandfather's country and your mother's land." The connection was always there, it was never really severed.
After this year's apology, many believe compensation is the natural next step. At 69, Zita Wallace is hoping she'll be around long enough to see compensation from the Commonwealth, which she'd use to connect water to her home.
I'm living how I want to live, and it's very simple. As you can see, my place is nothing flash. It's a tin shed that I've converted into a home. I don't even have running water yet.
But she's leaving the compensation fight to others, and plenty are willing to take up the cause.
If they can change the human rights so that they can come in here and give us an intervention, surely they can look at that as an example and say, okay, well, let's compensate these people.
We accept the need for compensation in so many areas of Australian life. Why is it that Aboriginal people are treated differently?
Kirsty Nankaro reporting there.